Here is an amazingly popular knife. This, of course, is the Kershaw Leek, and it has a huge fan base out there, and for good reason. That's because it is a very cool assisted opening knife with elegant and high quality construction throughout, and it comes in a wide variety of colorations, which I'll show you a couple. This one is mine, and I only own one Kershaw Leek. This is it. This is an aluminum handled model 1660 olive drab black smoke version that was produced in limited quantities, as are a lot of their colorations. They kind of come, they kind of go, and I like that. That's cool that they limit them. That makes them special, just like this one. And look at that coloration in that handle, how cool that is. The olive drab and the smoke. You know I'm a big fan of subdued colors, and they just got that handle right. It's just a beautiful knife. I kind of think of the Kershaw Leek, however, as a gentleman's folder, kind of a light-duty EDC use blade. And that's because I feel that it has a very delicate tip on it, a normal Kershaw Leek, that can be broken or worn excessively under hard use. This is not a knife that I would take into hard use situations, maybe ranch work or heavy duty survival use. I just think the Warncliffe style blade is just a little bit delicate. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this one is in 420 stainless steel. The current offerings mostly are in 13C26 Sandvik steel, which I think is a big improvement over my steel. However, to be honest, this one is mostly a collectible for me. I do not use it. It just stays in the safe, and I collect it. It's cool. And that gets, again, to the enjoyment factor of the blade. I just love the coloration and how it looks. Let's talk a little bit more about the specifics on the blade. I already talked about the shape. Somewhat limited in use, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of more sweep in my EDC blades. And let me show you some alternatives that I think, if you're looking for a high-use blade, I don't know if the Leek is it. And if you have a lot of use on your Leek, heavy-duty use, make a video and post it as a response below, and we'll take a look at it. I'd like to see how this blade wears over time under very hard use. And I'm not talking just opening some letters, but I mean some real hard use if you have that. But some alternatives to this knife, kind of close to the same weight category. By the way, this one is 2.4 ounces, the aluminum handled Leek in this steel. But maybe the Energy. This is the model, and I did a review on this, a 1740 Energy, also a Kershaw blade. But I think this would be, these are exactly the same weight, by the way, exactly the same weight. I think this would be a much better choice for hard daily use. And you can see that blade, like I talked about in its review when I use a Flash 1 as a pointer. That sweep right there is, in my opinion, not in Fancy's opinion, kind of needed in a hard use EDC blade. A lot of your cutting is going to be draw cuts like that, and that tip will get a lot of wear too. All my EDC blades, every single one of them that I use hard, will have tip wear, which is normal. However, when you have a very delicate tip like that, it might break or wear excessively, in my opinion. So that would be an excellent alternative to the Leek if you're looking just for performance. Also the Steigerwalt. This one right here, this is a smaller Steigerwalt. This is a limited edition knife. Good luck trying to find it. They're still out there now if you buy now. I'll do a separate review eventually. That's a nice blade. Look at the shape on that blade. Basically the same shape as the Energy by Kershaw. Of course, the Flash 1, that's only a 1.2 ounce blade. By the way, this the Steigerwalt, this one right here is only 1.8 ounces. Very small. Springless design. Very cool. Not the most solid lockup in the world. But those are some other alternatives, perhaps, to a Leek if you're considering a Leek just for EDC use. If you're going to plan some really hard use, for just about the same weight, you could roll in with a Delica 4 from Spyderco. Excellent EDC heavy use blade in VG10 steel, of which I am a big fan. And this is the steel line model. I did a separate review on this if you want to look it up. Great hard use blade. Love it. However, there's other things besides just absolute utility when we talk about knives, and the Leek, again, has that high performance factor. I'll get a little bit to more of that when I show you some other screen variations. The blade is, as you can see, coated in black, my version, and I like that. I think that's very cool. And I love how Kershaw stamps a manufacture date on the tang. Very nice. July '04 is mine. Yeah, I've had this for a few years. And there's the model number and the coloration code. Very cool. This one is a liner lock. Now the solid stainless steel, I think it's 410 stainless steel handles that other Leeks use are frame locks. They're going to be stronger than this variation, which is just a liner lock, as you can see. The actuation of a Leek is one of the cool parts about it. It comes out just like a switchblade or an auto knife. It is speed assisted, and I love speed assisted knives. I know some guys take the torsion bars or the springs out so they don't have to mess around with that, but I love them. I think they're cool. Two ways to deploy the Leek, of course. We can go by the thumb stud, pop it out that way, and then we can use the extended tang protruding through the rear of the handle just with our index finger. That tends to be my favorite way to deploy these smaller Kershaws. Very nice. The handle is attached with Allen head screws. Actually, I think I'm mistaken. Those are Torx head screws. So you could take it off if you had to clean it. And I love that option should I need to do it. The clip is outstanding. It's typical Kershaw quality. I love how Kershaw blackens their clips. They do such a good job with that. Perfect shape, retains in the pocket well. Yeah, in a perfect world it'd come up higher, but with the design being what it is on this Kershaw Leek, that's going to be a hard task because here we have the safety of the knife. This is designed in the closed position to prevent it opening. In my opinion, it's not really needed. All it is a piece of plastic that slides over the tip of the blade, preventing deployment. What I do with mine is I take my mini Torx bit driver and I just crank it down. And I love how Kershaw allowed you to do that. That way it won't actuate in the pocket, and when I need the knife, you know, it's ready to go. So you can, whatever you want. Some guys like actuating that and having it locking the blade in the closed position. Do whatever you want. The clip, getting back to it, is reversible. You can put it on the pivot side, or as I like to do it, and as you can tell, on the inside, so we have tip-up carry. I much prefer that, actually. The overall weight of the aluminum-handled Leeks is very svelte, really light in hand. I like that, 2.4 ounces. I'm not a super fan of solid stainless steel handled knives, and a lot of the Leeks are indeed that, and they're going to weigh around 3.1 ounces. Not a huge difference, but if you compare an aluminum handled Leek versus a steel handled Leek, they do feel differently in hand. But your mileage is going to vary. Some guys like that solid feel and the weight of the stainless steel handled Leeks, and I totally understand that. Not exactly a flow-through design on this. They have a Zytel spacer in the back. No big deal. I don't consider this a tactical blade. This is an EDC blade in most respects. Now, could you use it in an emergency tactical fashion? Yeah, sure you could. However, the handle and the whole knife itself is relatively small. Therefore, you better hang on to that sucker really tight. And again, maybe that tip might bust off on you just when you don't want it to bust off on you. How's the thumb stud on it? I love it. I think it's terraced nicely. It's fully ambidextrous, so very nicely done. Kershaw does such great work. We can adjust the pivot if we need to, and I like how they've recessed that pivot bolt on the other side so we don't have to dink around with it. Just work that mini Torx pivot screw there if you need to do it. I find that they do not need adjustment at all. They work just fine. Fast, and they have great lockup. There's absolutely no movement in all the Leeks I've ever examined. They're all very tight, and they're just well made. What a cool knife that is. Yeah, maybe not the hardest use knife, but gosh, it's just cool. And for light duty EDC use, you bet. Bring it along, and I'm sure many of my viewers will say just that hey, yeah, I've been using a Leek for a long time and I love it. It's my most favorite and most carried pocket knife. I totally understand that. Let's look at some different colorations of Leek currently available as of, we'll call it December 08, since November's drawing to a close. And okay, here we are at the computer screen. And I'm going to show you a few colorations of different Leeks. There's your standard one. That's just your bead blasted finish along with a stainless steel handle, 410 series stainless steel. Good looking knife. Most Leeks now use a 13C26 steel. I know Kershaw was experimenting with the different hardness levels. I think the current steel is hardened pretty darn hard, up to 60 on the Rockwell scale, and it's a far superior steel than my Leek in the 420 series stainless. There's a really cool one. That's the composite blade Leek. Same handle, and again, the stainless steel ones are going to be frame locks. They're going to be a little bit stronger than the liner locks, in my opinion. And that's a cool looking blade, isn't it? That's 13C26 on the upper spine. Then the lower portion will be D2 steel. to make for a more durable cutting surface. Now, be advised though, that D2 steel is brittle, so that's probably going to make that tip even more susceptible to breakage if you apply any type of leverage on it. There is not a reinforced tip on the Leek, so just be advised. I love the look of that knife now. Of that knife though. Retail about $100. I'm not going to talk to street prices because it just varies so much. There's a really cool one. I'm not a super fan of Tanto blades in EDC, but I'm going to make an exception for this one. I really like the Tanto Leek. I think it's cool. It's got some belly there towards the front, which is going to make it effective in EDC tasks. Yeah, it's got partial serration, and generally I don't like partial serrated blades or partially serrated blades. I prefer to have a full run of serrations, or even more prefer just a standard plain edge blade. But the way that Kershaw does their serrations, I dig it. They're very useful, very effective. They cut instead of rip. I mentioned that in my blur video review. Love it. And here we see the Tanto design that they have. By the way, this blade is in preferable S30V steel. Very nice. You're going to pay for it though. Retail is $130. But now we see that the tip has been reinforced with a Tanto design, and that's going to make it much stronger. Great knife. I wouldn't mind having one of those. A little bit pricey though for the small knife it is, but man, it'd be cool to have one. And then we come up here. This is your standard aluminum handled version, just like mine. That OD smoke coloration. This one's in blue. They currently, as of the video date on this is end of November 2008, offer a pink handled version as well. Both good looking knives, lighter weight if that's important to you. Cool knife here. Check this out. That's a Leek in G10 handle, in a G10 handle, and it looks like it. I haven't handled one, but it looks like it's really textured nicely. You guys know I'm a huge fan of G10, and this Leek would probably be my overall favorite Leek currently. In the S30 V steel with a beautiful stonewash finish, very similar to that blur finish in S30V that they offered for a short time. Just love it. That is a cool knife. And G10 handle, and it's really lightweight. It's only about 2.4 ounces. Yeah, the retail on it is also pretty high, $130. So you get what you pay for. Anytime you go to S30V like that knife or the Tanto version, you're just going to pay more money. That's just the way it is. And then back to another steel handled version, 410 stainless steel handled version with DLC coating on it. Standard black, 13C26 blade. Good looking knife. I always like pure black, albeit sometimes it's nice to vary that coloration up because, you know, you may get a little bit boring as far as the enjoyment side of it. And then we go to the all important and all favorite Rainbow Leek, and that's a beautiful titanium. I'm sorry, make sure I get my terminology right. Yeah, titanium oxide coated, producing that coloration on there. Isn't that cool? And it produces a highly scratch resistant coating, they said. I don't have one, but I have a buddy that has one, and he absolutely loves his. And this is a staple in the Kershaw line. They may discontinue it in the future, but right now that's an available coloration for you. So there's just a few different varieties as of the making of this video that you can look for out there. And that's another huge benefit of having a Leek, is that they indeed are offered in all the variations. So it's very tempting to start a Leek collection, although you're going to spend some coin on doing it. Back to the tripod we go, and I'll just finish up with a couple more notes. One good thing about the Leek blade shape, even though I will say that it is susceptible to breakage, on the other hand, that tip is very functional in a lot of different ways. Sometimes you want a very sharp tip, maybe splinter digging or whatever kind of other utility tasks you have. The tip functions extremely well, coupled with a very sharp blade. Out of the box, the Leeks are just razor sharp. I haven't seen one that isn't. Great job, Kershaw, on putting that edge on there. Any new knife we buy should be that way. And yet, there's so many manufacturers that indeed don't do it. So there's a lot to like about the Leek. The cool colorations, the speed of opening, which is just pretty darn fast in my opinion. It's almost like an automatic knife. The quality of build is superb. It's lightweight. Yeah, if you go with the stainless steel handles, it's going to add just I don't know, about 0.6 more ounces, but still very carryable, and also thin. Look how thin that Kershaw Leek is. That's another huge benefit. Almost forgot to mention that of the knife. And all the other alternatives I showed you are going to be a lot thicker than the Leek. So for a gentleman's folder, the Leek is just superior. I love this knife. Thanks for tuning in, Nothing Fancy, with a Kershaw Leek review as requested by many of my subscribers. Take care. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.